Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Read Show.
Good evening. What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Read Show right here on the Barroom Network. And we are live on YouTube right now. If you missed any of our previous shows, they are on Spotify, iTunes, and of course on YouTube, where you can see our lovely faces. We have a lot to get to on the show today. Remember to follow us on Twitter. Follow me at The Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Read. We'll be talking Bears to lead off the show, of course. Justin Fields, a full participant in practice today. We'll see if he's a full go for Sunday against the much-hated Packers, and they're tied at all-time winningest franchises right now. We'll see who comes out with a win. Aaron Rodgers also expected to play, even though both are banged up. That's for sure. We'll talk about the injuries and a whole lot more regarding the Bears. We'll talk about the NFL and injury updates there, playoff previews perhaps. We'll talk about Jose headed to Houston, and we'll talk about some quick hits at the end. If you follow Ross on Twitter and are back and forth, and if you're local like us, you saw this viral tourist trap, if you will, very much every sense of the word, a guided tour. You know, what are those pay for? It's like a Groupon thing where you pay and you get this package. We'll go over it. And our version, much better valued version, Ross's specific tour was great. If you go and check it out right now. How you doing, Mr. Reed? What's happening, man? Haven't seen you in a while.
I'm good. Welcome to December. The holiday season is upon us.
You can play the Mariah Carey now. Go ahead, Ross.
You can play the Mariah Carey now, as I prefer, and you as well. You can play the Donny Hathaway. This is Christmas now, as I did on Saturday, while I had two Christmas ales from Great Lakes. That is still the best thing that Cleveland has ever given us, is the Christmas ale from Great Lakes. But yes, it's good to be here. It's also good to be above 30 degrees again. It was really cold in Chicago the last couple of days, so happy to see some little bit warmer temperatures, even though we're heading into December.
I mean, yeah, it's only going to get worse, right? But yeah, it's December. Holidays are in full swing. We got the tree up. It's opening up nicely. We get the real tree. I don't know where you stand at with your trees.
I'm a real tree guy. I picked it up last Friday. I'm a Black Friday, go out to get the Christmas tree. So I picked it up at Home Depot. I got a beautiful tree. It's up. The house smells like pine. I cleaned up pine needles for like 2 days straight, but we're good now. I put the little thing, the skirt underneath it, and we got the poinsettias all over the house. Yeah, we got the poinsettias all over the house. We got the lights are up inside and outside. The Grinch is flopping around in the wind outside. He glows in the dark. My kid loves it. We've watched the Grinch 7 times already this week. We're in the full spirit. That
away. We're finally. I've finally given the blessing for Christmas music in my household now that the tree is up. So it's December. It takes till December for me for it all to settle in. But y'all didn't tune in just for our Christmas talk. We got to talk Bears at length here. And, no bigger matchup in football, of course, regardless of record, you think of rivalries, and certainly storied rivalry with the Packers and the Bears, and both teams really underachieving this year, and certainly different paths and different shortcomings for sure. Obviously, this team in the midst of a rebuild, and the Packers led by Aaron Rodgers kind of on their way out, but they beat the tar out of the Bears earlier in week 2 of this season on Sunday Night Football, as they typically do, 27-10. It was a drubbing. That was when Justin Fields was still getting his feet under him, and this defense had no answer for Aaron Rodgers and the rest of this Packers squad. So looking ahead to that Sunday matchup now, and obviously, too, we're talking really quickly about the Bears, putting Trevor Siemian out there and whoever they want to start at quarterback in lieu of Justin Fields when he's injured against the Jets. We kind of knew that the Jets were going to be winning that game. Mike White or whoever beat them, Joe Flacco, just put him out there, and that offense struggled mightily to produce points. And you take Justin Fields out of the equation, obviously this team has a lot of deficiencies. We've talked about this defense at length and their lack of a pass rush too. And offensively, certainly, you're losing a lot when you don't have a lot of firepower as far as wide receiver is concerned, and you're really only throwing 20 sometimes a game. It's a work in progress for sure, but the losses keep stacking up, and it's helping the Bears vault into the top 5 for a draft. If you're excited about tanking, which I certainly am, but looking ahead into this week, the defense we'll talk about in a second, but what are your expectations with Justin Fields? And I know we talked about it at length the last time we did a show together, Ross. He needs these reps. Certainly there's the side of you that wants him to err on the side, and the rest of this franchise for that matter, err on the side of caution and make sure that he is healthy going forward, because it seems like the only thing that could doom this young man's career is, knock on wood, any sort of bad injury. And he's usually wearing the rib protector. That shoulder injury is supposed to not really be that serious. Obviously, with him being a full participant in practice today, that's kind of evident, but it's still up in the air. They might pull Justin Fields the last second. They might pull Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? But expectations and your thoughts on that sort of philosophy of bringing Justin Fields out against the Packers on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he practiced in full today, and anytime you practice in full on a Wednesday like that, he's trending towards playing. I fully expect him to play this Sunday. I think a lot of Bears fans, us included, probably said that we should not see him until after the bye week. But it's very tough. You have to kind of, for now, give general manager Ryan Poles and head coach Matt Eberflus the benefit of the doubt and saying that they know him better than anybody else right now. They know his medical situation right now, and if they think that he can play without causing any more harm to that shoulder, they're going to put him out there. At some point, you have to take into effect that this young man he's the leader of your football team in the moment. He's your best player, clearly, but he's also the leader of your football team going forward. And if he has the competitive fire to play, as long as it's not causing a serious detriment to him long term, then you should play him, wins and loss records aside. And that's kind of where I land things today. And a lot of people are like, well, you shouldn't put him out there. He's this shoulder, this and that. They know him right now. And I feel like they've got a pretty good beat on things, to where if he wants to play, you have to let him play. If the guy says, I want to go out there against our number one rival, against a Hall of Fame quarterback, he's going to play too. Aaron Rodgers is going to play. Then you have to be able to put him out there. If things are looking bad, if the Bears are getting their butts kicked for whatever reason or something like that, then you can easily pull him. But listen, it's going to be 42 degrees on the lakefront on Sunday. The sun is going to be shining. For all intents and purposes, it's going to be a beautiful, unseasonably warm day for December in Chicago. And if he wants to play that home game, I'm okay with it. I'm going to trust Justin. I'm going to trust the Bears and their coaching staff and their medical department and stuff like that right now, because at some point, you do have to start building some kind of competitive spirit and fire going into next year. That maybe sounds a little meatballish. I get it, because, you still want to err on the side of caution and what's right long term. But you do have to start putting those pieces together. Remember, this is coming off of Justin, who the last game he played against the Falcons, came out and said, to his team in the locker room, I let you guys down. The defense, I let you down. You gave me an opportunity to win that football game, and I didn't do it. This young man is craving the opportunity to step up and be the leader and show what he can do and have that competitive fight and spirit. And he wants to go out there. I like what I heard about him during his press conference this week, where he said that he saw, sitting on that sideline Sunday helped him a lot to see a couple of things, in particular the Trevor Siemian check down play to Blasingame, which went for like 31 yards. Things kind of, he took the opportunity to kind of take some things to where maybe he's probably saying, I don't have to take it all or nothing on each play. And I don't have to go down the field all the time. I don't have to take this run and take this hit. Maybe I should take these checkdowns more. Maybe I should be smarter with my body and smarter with the football and take what the defense is giving you and so on and so forth. So I like hearing that from him. It's exciting that even though this is a lost season, that this young man still wants to go out there and prove that he is a true leader of this football team and elite talent. And then we'll go from there. It makes Sunday all the more enticing, all the more fun. I know we want that number 2 overall pick. I know Will Anderson from Alabama is sitting there and we're all salivating over it. But at the end of the day, this team's going to ride or die with Justin Fields. And so for now, I think the team has to, the coaching staff has to instill some kind of confidence and support in him. And if he's saying, Coach, I want to get out there and play, I feel good, you got to let him do it.
In this second year, it's incredibly important that he get the reps too. I think we're both in agreement there, regardless of how banged up the offense is. And again, we'll talk about the defense shortly. And chime in, please, the Barflies in the comments as you're watching live here on YouTube, and chime in on Twitter as well and get engaged. You know, with Fields, obviously he was limited to start the week, just kind of easing back into it, and then was a full go. And Luke Getsy said if something was glaring that was prohibiting him from being able to throw the ball or something, I think everybody would see that. We're just coaching him up, trying to take advantage of whatever we can, any moment that we can, any rep that we're able to get, just to continue his progression. And that progression is all important, and that the chemistry that's starting to build, we're starting to see between Luke Getsy and Justin Fields. You want to get that back, and he was certainly on such a hot streak before getting sidelined after that Falcons game where he laid it all out there. And it's so interesting with the rest of the quarterback situation too, with Trevor Siemian, who sat out with a oblique injury for the second day, and he sustained that injury last Sunday during pregame warmups, which is just the softest thing I've ever heard of. And after taking medication, he was able to play, and we saw what he was able to do, and obviously less effective than Justin Fields for sure with the arm and feet there. But the Bears had to sign Tim Boyle off the Lions practice squad, and if God forbid Justin Fields does take a big hit, then it'll be some sort of a blowout. But I side with, certainly with what you were talking about, that competitive spirit and the meatballish part of it. And if you talk to any of these Bears players, they want Aaron Rodgers out there. They want to face that team at full strength because they remember that Sunday nighter in week 2. And they want a little bit of revenge, right? And they know that it's a different squad after the trades. You lost those defensive pieces, and this defense is just decimated with injuries right now. But the offense, that's another question, is just what do you expect from Justin Fields coming back? Do you think it will be more of the early season Justin Fields when he lost that game as far as he was building momentum? And there's something to be said about clicking at the right time, game after game. I would say it'd be a more down performance. I think he'll be sticking to Cole Kmet, but I think he does learn, like you talked about earlier too, Ross, about spreading the ball around, not being afraid to check it down, and certainly not running quite as much. I think, that's his bread and butter. He's been so mobile and able to just cut up defenses that way, but you got to pump the brakes.
You do, and at least when you run, you've got to be a lot smarter with your runs, right? You have to know when to take the slide. You have to know when to get out of bounds. The hit that he hurt his shoulder on, he was going towards the sidelines, but he tried to fight for that extra yard, and he got hit and ended up getting knocked out of bounds and knocked on that shoulder. And sometimes you have to realize that the extra yard is not worth a torn labrum or fractured ribs or something like that. You've got to be a lot smarter with the football. I think these are things that Lamar Jackson has learned over the course of his career. Even Kyler Murray has learned over the course of his career as well. Lamar Jackson, the one time he's gotten hurt in his career actually came from a hit in the pocket. It hasn't come in all those design runs that he's had, despite the fact that he is probably more slender build than Justin. So those are things that Justin is going to have to pick up in his career. And hopefully this is the perfect game to kind of start, seeing those things and start putting all those things together. Like we said, right? Taking the check down, right? Getting the football out of your hands extremely fast, getting it to some of these playmakers, or lack thereof right now because everybody's hurt. But allowing them to make some plays and run after the catch. You don't have to do it all. It's not all on your shoulders right now, right? Especially in a lost season. You just have to play smart football, work on your skill set, get these reps in here because he still needs the reps too. That's a really important thing. This young man is only in the second, his second season in the NFL. And he's only had 20 starts or whatever it is, so he still needs these reps. That's really important. So, just take what the defense gives you. Don't take these big hits. The Packers defense, it's not very good. It's not very good. And then they can, head into a bye week and kind of, allow him to rest a little bit more from there. But, I think another big point about him playing on Sunday is, and we saw this at Ohio State. Remember, he had the broken ribs before at Ohio State and still played in the bowl game, right? And still, played in the playoff game. He shows you that when it will matter, and hopefully it will matter soon enough, he's going to suit up in these games. So if he does have these lingering injuries or something's bothering him, but let's say it is a wild card game or an NFC championship game or a game with first place on the line in week 13 against the Vikings or something like that, he's going to show you, he's like, look, I'm going to be out there and I'm going to lead this football team and I'm going to play. And that's the kind of guy that you want leading your football there. It's the kind of quarterback you want.
Yeah, absolutely. You ask Justin, and he definitely wants to play this Packers team. If you ask the defense and the offense, any players on this Bears team right now, they're going to tell you the same thing. And the defense, we've skirted on this issue. They are just super banged up. And I know in the comments, J-Rock was asking, does the D-line coach share responsibility for poor production? Yes, I think, this falls on the entire defense. And you look certainly at this defensive line, and they have been as bad as they have ever been for this Bears team. And obviously losing Robert Quinn is a big load, and he was the only one who was, formerly a Pro Bowler and is on his way to, perhaps a Hall of Fame caliber career. Really great years, a couple great years with the Bears. But now, that pass rush, it just falls back onto the linebackers and falls back on the secondary. And look at the secondary now. Eddie Jackson out for the season after having a Pro Bowl caliber year. You're looking at Brisker and Gordon, and they're hurt. They're limited, probably not going to go into this Sunday's matchup. And then Jalen Johnson out alone on an island, who he will guard for the Packers team. We've seen on the offensive side of the ball for the Packers, the kid Watson is just going nuts. He's going to be a nightmare for this defense, it looks like. So, the matchup, I do think this is a different looking team than certainly what the Packers saw in week 2. And you're having the benefit of Aaron Rodgers playing late in this season, and he is banged up with that thumb injury and the rib injury. But it's going to be very tough sledding. You got to figure that there will be a heavy dose of Aaron Jones, and then Aaron Rodgers able to do Aaron Rodgers things. He might bellow out, "I own you," to Chicago fans once again in Soldier Field, which would be the worst.
It would be. And, going back to that defensive line, I mean, sure, coaching staff always shares some responsibility, but they have absolutely atrocious talent up front. I shouldn't say that. Let me take that back. The talent level is not there for the defensive line. In particular, you've got a lot of backups out there that are trying to play some meaningful minutes. A big disappointment to me this year has been Travis Gibson. I thought that he was going to show us a lot more than what he has shown this year. But, you're trotting out guys out there like Dominique Robinson and Angelo Blackson and even Justin Jones and, guys like that. These are backups. These are backups in the NFL, and they're having to play meaningful snaps. And it goes to show you the Bears are going to have to spend some money in the offseason to revamp that defensive line, probably even more so than the offensive line. And they're likely going to spend their first round pick on a guy on the defensive line. We just talked about a couple minutes ago, Will Anderson being the premier pass rusher out of Alabama. If the Bears are there in the top 5 pick, I fully think that they're going to select him or the defensive tackle, Jalen Carter out of Georgia. You need one of those two impact blue chip players on that defensive line. And you still need to go out there and sign a guy like De'Aaron Payne, who there was a great piece about him in The Athletic today about how he definitely wants to get his money, and he's kind of looking to be a star in this league. And I think the Washington Commanders, who are already stacked on their defensive line, are not going to be able to afford him. The Bears, as we know, have all the money in the world, and they can overspend to bring a guy like Darren Payne in here. And all of a sudden, you get Payne in here, and you get Will Anderson in here, and you start maybe getting like a Yannick Ngakoue and something like that in here. You start making this defensive line look a lot better, right? And those are the things that they're going to have to do. Remember, the Bears have the most money in free agency to spend this year, as well as a what's going to potentially be a top 5 draft pick. So I fully think that they're going to go defensive line early and often in the draft and free agency this year, because that's going to be a big key to Matt Eberflus's defense going forward, as well as a really good athletic linebacker in the middle of the field opposite Jack Sanborn.
Big Jonathan Allen, like you were talking about the Commanders. I've liked him since he came out of Alabama, and his production has spoken for itself. And you saw when the Bears played Washington, he was all over the place, and he is a disruptor for sure. And you pair him with Will Anderson, that would immediately, I feel like, turn around this type of defense who has, again, just been underperforming. Look at Al-Qadim Muhammad, who you thought might be a steal in free agency. 8 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, just not great production from him. And obviously there's been a big spotlight on the linebacking core now that Roquan Smith is gone, who played very well. Jack Sanborn has stepped up. But yeah, all eyes are certainly going to be on the secondary for me, as you're seeing Kyler Gordon, and Jaquan Brisker limited with injuries. You'll see a lot of DeAndre Houston Carson, see if he can share the load with a guy like Kindle Vildor, who has been up and down this season. And then you see what you have in depth there. And it's obviously a big spot for these other secondary players to see if they'll be brought back into next year. And you're thinking, certainly, from the Bears standpoint with this depth chart, who's going to be coming back and who's not at this point. And I mean, shout out to Eddie Jackson and a guy like Tevin Jenkins, who have been having Pro Bowl seasons in the midst of a pretty tumultuous year. And Tevin Jenkins really turning it around has been such a great story. You knew that Eddie Jackson had this potential, certainly because he got signed. He's highest paid safety in the league. You saw back when the Bears were last in the playoffs, if he was in that game against the Eagles, perhaps they go on and he makes a bigger impact when he was having an incredible year that year as well. So he's definitely an anchor. He was the defensive captain too. So who's left to step up? It certainly looks like, the defense is going to be torn up like they have been all season. They've been allowing, in the top 10 probably point total right now at this point. So all eyes are on Justin Fields and this offense to carry the load, and we'll see if they're able to on the lakefront.
Yeah, which is why you kind of hope that the Bears, go out there and they lose this game 35-31. It's kind of the best of both worlds. You still want Justin Fields to go out there and ball out and continue his progression going forward. You want him and Chase Claypool to start to get some chemistry together, because that whole situation hasn't really kind of kicked up like you thought it would have early on here, especially with Darnell Mooney out. But we also know that the defense is not going to be able to stop a nosebleed for us of the year. That's just not it. Listen, I've got all the respect in the world for Mike White, and I think that he is the better option for the Jets going forward. But he is not going to be able to do what he did last Sunday on a lot of other defenses in the league right now. That's just how bad the Bears are in all 3 phases, with as many injuries as they have right now. They didn't have much defensive line depth before they traded guys, like Roquan, Robert Quinn, The linebacking core is super limited. Jack Sanborn is a fun story. He's still a liability in the pass game. Morrow, same thing with him. Has been a decent signing, but they don't have that elite athletic linebacker that they need to play against the run and the and in the pass. And then, like you said, with the secondary, right? I mean, when you don't have Jaquan Brisker, who's been your outstanding rookie all year, Jalen Johnson is stuck on an island, but he can't guard everybody in the football field. Vildor is a limited, outside corner. He's been solid this year, but he's also has issues. He's just very limited. And Kyler Gordon, he was coming on at the end of the season here, but he had his struggles too, especially in pass coverage. He was very good against the run, I thought, the last couple of weeks. So, all these injuries up there, the Bears are probably going to give up easily 28, 30 points a game, going forward. You just hope that Justin Fields can match it, or at least come close to matching. And if he can, that's a success. If they lose every single football game, 38-31, 35-31 for the rest of the year, I'm okay with that. At this point, all I care about is the progression of Justin Fields. And then let's keep him as healthy as possible, and let's get into the offseason, and let's starting a game plan together on how we're going to make this roster go from a 4-win team to at least a 9-win team next year.
Yeah, no question. And it only gets tougher after the Packers, as we know, the Bears had a pretty soft schedule, looking at the face of it to start the season. Now they're riding this nice 5-game losing streak. Could make it 6 on Sunday. But then you go and play the Eagles, you play the Bills, and the Lions and Vikings. Eagles and Bills at home. That'll be fun, though. On the flip side, I did want to pick your brain on this, Ross. Aaron Rodgers said he was open to the idea of shutting him down. Where do you think the Packers are at with Aaron at this point? And I don't know what good it does shutting him down and taking it. I ultimately think it's up to Aaron at this point what he wants to do. Obviously, he said he's been dealing with the thumb injury, so he could have easily said, I'm going to stop playing. I'm getting up there. But for a guy who, could easily retire at the end of the season, I feel like, does it make a lot of sense to sit him out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, the only thing with that is, Aaron Rodgers has 50-something million reasons, literally cash-wise, right, as to why he won't retire at least this year. So I do think he comes back for one more year, but I think next year is his last year. Hey, if I were the Packers, I would try and talk to Aaron and say, look, we do want you to make one more run at this next year, so we think that you should sit down for the rest of the year and get healthy. And let's play Jordan Love. And that gives the Packers an opportunity to trot Jordan Love out there, and maybe he shows other teams something across the league and he becomes a trade candidate. Listen, there's going to be a lot of QB needy teams in this offseason, and not all of them are going to be able to go up there and get the Bryce Youngs of the world, or CJ Straws of the world, or Will Levi or anything like that, the young man out of Kentucky. So some teams might be trying to look at a guy like Jordan Love, and you might have a Matt Flynn type situation who coincidentally was a backup in Green Bay, and he signed a monster deal to go to Seattle, only to get beaten out in training camp by a third-round pick by the name of Russell Wilson. But so, Jordan Love could help a team out there. You never know. It could help I'm throwing a Carolina Panthers out there, right, who all of a sudden are kind of playing themselves out of a top 5 pick. So they're playing themselves out of a quarterback situation, and they might want to look at a guy like Jordan Love, or even the Atlanta Falcons, even though they drafted Spencer Rattler last year. So if I were the Packers, I'd sit Rodgers, because he's not giving you anything right now. You're not going to the playoffs. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. Him going out there just proves nothing. You got to make a decision here on Jordan Love, because that 5th-year option is quickly approaching. Are you going to let a first-round pick walk? Or are you going to pick up the option? Or are you going to try and trade him? Well, you can't trade him right now because nobody knows what the hell he does. Nobody knows what he's done on the football field. All you've seen is preseason games and a few quarters of regular season games. So I would use this as a dress rehearsal if I were them for the rest of the year, to show teams what Jordan Love can do, in the hopes of maybe getting a second or third round pick out of him. Very similar to the Jimmy Garoppolo situation with Tom Brady, who refused to retire back in the day.
Yeah, and we've certainly thought that from the Packers standpoint that Jordan Love was the next guy, but now just seeing that little bit of action last week and how he was able to step up, and now the Packers might have another piece there, and it makes too much sense to sit Aaron Rodgers at this point if he is ailing with the rib injury and the thumb injury. Regardless of who he faces, this season is already lost, and you're going to try and run it back next year and swing at some building the rest of the offensive line back to where it should be around him and getting him a couple more weapons at wide receiver, then it does make a lot of sense there. What is your prediction score-wise for Sunday?
Yep, I got Packers 31. Okay. I got Bears 24.
Was that 21-24?
Nope, 31-24 Packers.
31-24 Packers.
31-24 Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers plays. I think he plays just fine. I think Christian Watson is emerging right now as his number 1 wide receiver. I called that 4 weeks too late, but I mean 4 weeks too early. But Watson is really playing some good football right now. Aaron Jones is still back there, even though AJ Dillon is hurt right now. But as long as Aaron Rodgers is able to step on the football field against this Bears defense in beautiful weather, I think that he's going to be able to put some points on the board.
Yeah, Packers 27, Bears 20. It'll be closer than we would think, but Bears continue to lose. I think they add on to that losing streak at 6. Let's move on to the rest of the NFL, Ross. And we got a pretty good one tonight with the Patriots and Bills as we kick off Week 13, and we're starting to formulate the playoff predictions, and the top seeds are distancing themselves from the lower seeds. No Von Miller for a while for the Bills as they take on the Pats tonight. As I mentioned, he's on the IR and out for at least the next 4 games. This should be a good one. I like it. And to the point I made, looking to the matchups for Thanksgiving games, I think they all delivered looking back to Week 12. There wasn't, a ton from Week 12 that stood out. It was more of the same with, the NFC not looking as a whole too fierce. Certainly Vikings separated themselves and the Eagles, but more Russell Wilson hate, and that implosion in Denver was more of the same there. But you're seeing those teams that are peaking at this point in time are the ones you really got to look out for. And we've been saying repeatedly on this show, look out for the Bengals, who edged out another good team in the AFC, the Titans, when they beat them 20-16. It was more of a low scoring affair there with those two teams, but you're seeing certainly, look at the NFC East. You'd think one of those teams would come out on top. Even the Commanders under Taylor Heineke right now, they keep rolling 7-5. All the NFC East teams right now would make the playoffs, which is just crazy. Looking at the seeding, you got Kansas City, Miami, Tennessee, Baltimore, Buffalo, the Bengals, the Jets. And then you're looking at the NFC, Eagles, Vikings, 49ers, Tampa at 5-6. Look at that. And then the Cowboys, Giants, Commanders all getting in the entire division, which is unbelievable. If the playoffs started today, would you have a favorite, Ross?
I think that the Kansas City Chiefs will be the favorite for me coming out of the AFC. Just because they're battle tested, and I'm gonna pick for Pat Mahomes right now. I think he's elevating that entire offense right now. Kelsey is having a decent Kelsey year, but he's really elevating some guys out there. They're just keep plugging different running backs in there. They just brought in somebody. Melvin Gordon, who was released by the Broncos. He had that great Broncos meme with him driving the Broncos truck like OJ Simpson out of there. But and then in the NFC, I have a Philadelphia bet. I got them at the beginning of the season 25-1 to go to the Super Bowl. But this is the time of year where I start betting on the 49ers. I bet on the 49ers every single year since they did go to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, to go to the Super Bowl, because they're starting to look damn good, and they're starting to get healthy at the right time on offense and defense. And if Jimmy G is going to play like that consistently, which is just good enough to win football games, not make these stupid mistakes, then I can see them going into Philadelphia, who looks very beatable right now, and winning that football game. I am really impressed with what the Cowboys are doing right now. I think they're peaking at the right time as well. I think they're getting healthy. I think that Michael Parsons is probably the best defensive player in the NFL right now. And I love the way Dak Prescott is playing right now. So, for those 3 teams, for me, it's a real toss-up. I think I'll feel better about one of them in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But it's an arms race right now. Philadelphia is obviously in the driver's seat with the best record in the NFC, but that doesn't mean that I'm counting out the 49ers or the Cowboys, because I think that both of those teams are very good. I do not believe in the Vikings, even though they do have some impressive wins. I don't trust Kirk Cousins in big spots, in big primetime games, anything like that. I don't trust their defense to be able to get enough stops. Their kicker likes to miss extra points. That always scares the crap out of me when you show up in the playoffs and stuff like that. But if I were to power rank the NFC right now, I'd still have the Eagles number 1, Cowboys number 2, but the 49ers are right there, man. That team is really coming out like they always do this time of year. the Christian McCaffrey trade is really paying dividends for them, as well as a couple other things that they have going on.
Yeah, offensively, they're scary with Ayuk and Debo too. If Garoppolo can just string it all together and be mistake free, looking at he's starting to look like a franchise quarterback, and they're very balanced. So 49ers peaking at the right time. I agree with you as far as Dallas is concerned too. I think that Dallas and the Eagles are the class of the NFC right now, and it comes back to their quarterbacks and Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott, and they're able to have great balance there. Jalen Hurts is the story of the year, I feel like, at quarterback, and he is really owning the conference. Obviously, at a 10-1 pace there. The Vikings looking like pretenders when they're beating all the divisional teams. We'll see. There might be a little more flash in the pan, but then losing that dud for them, 40-3, dropping that game to the Cowboys, it makes you think that one of these NFC East teams are one of them's got to come out on top. And I'm with you as far as the AFC is concerned. I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes at this point, or Josh Allen. The way these two guys are playing is pretty remarkable. And I know the Bills are sitting, at a lower seed, but that could play to their advantage. Chiefs just looking to lock up some sort of a bye. And then Dolphins are the new kids in town, and Tennessee makes it this far, but I feel like they don't have enough to push them over the edge. But look out for the Bengals at that 6th seed for sure. And looking ahead to this week, there's a ton of good games. I think, we mentioned Bears Packers, and at least from a rivalry standpoint, they managed to play close to each other and make it entertaining, albeit that I say that after that Sunday nighter dud, which was in week 2. But then, you see the Jets and the Vikings facing off. You see the Commanders and Giants, and they're both jockeying for some playoff position and trying to continue the success that they both had. Then Titans and Eagles is a good one. You got the Dolphins and 49ers. That's what I was thinking of. Could be the game of the week. And then Chiefs Bengals, also great. And then Monday nighter, there's bad blood between the Saints and the Buccaneers. What else are you looking for in this next week of action coming up? Obviously tipping off tonight with the Bills and the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, obviously tonight's a very good football game. I'm excited to watch that game when we hop off here. I think the Patriots are going to be able to keep it close. I know a lot of people are in on the Bills right now, but Josh Allen doesn't look very healthy with that elbow issue, and he didn't look healthy last Thursday in Detroit against the Lions. The Lions very much could have won that football game. So I'm worried about Josh Allen a little bit. I got to see him play. He hits a little bit some of those throws that he's been missing lately with that elbow situation. I think the Patriots can keep it close, but ultimately the Bills will win that game. Sunday to me is all about those 2 afternoon games. Dolphins, 49ers. Dolphins have to go to San Francisco. That's going to be a tough trip for them. As we know, Mike McDaniel, their current head coach, was a coordinator for Kyle Shanahan. So he's, that's going to be a storyline all week as he gets to go back and face his mentor and against that DeMeco Ryans defense. And then the other one is Kansas City Chiefs and the Bengals. And the Chiefs have to go to Cincinnati. And that's a rematch of the AFC Championship game. And you hit it on the head a couple minutes ago. The Bengals are playing really good football at the right time right now. Joe Burrow looks like he has that Joe Burrow swagger back in him. And most importantly, they get Jamar Chase back this week. And so now you get your number one weapon back out there with your boy Joe Burrow. And all of a sudden, we're cooking with gas a little bit. Sneaky good football game, Jets-Vikings. I think Mike White can pull it off. Pull it off. Remember I said last time the Commanders can pull off the win against the Eagles, and they did it. Hope you put a little money on it. Don't be afraid to sprinkle a couple bucks this week on the Jets to go in there to Minnesota and take out the Vikings. I think they can do it. Same thing with the Titans. The Titans are a scrappy football team. They play teams hard. They punch them in the mouth. They got to go on the road to Philadelphia. I'm not going to say that they'll win that game, but I think they can keep it close, especially in the first half. I think this could be a first half football game. I think we're really going to see what the Eagles are all about in a week like this, coming off of a big win last week. But those Titans teams, they're super physical. They're well coached by Mike Vrabel, and they're going to be really scrappy. It's going to be tough to handle Derrick Henry for 4 quarters. I think Jalen Hurts is playing some outstanding football right now. Let's see if he can keep it going against the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, some really fun matchups. I like the Jets going into Minnesota and potentially beating them. And again, the NFC matchup of the Commanders and Giants. We'll talk in a moment about them. But, it just goes back to the Bengals and Joe Burrow, as you were saying. Joe Burrow is still elite, and I think that he may have had some struggles, and they've obviously been a little bit different than the Rams. The Rams have just been a complete travesty at 3-8 right now. But the Bengals, the way they've been able to rally and overcome that loss of Jamar Chase and win football games, close football games, and now this is a huge one against the Chiefs. It could be a shootout for sure, but we should see Joe Burrow at his best. For sure. But also, looking at this free agency sweepstakes, I should say, wide receiver sweepstakes for Odell Beckham Jr. Do you see him going to the Cowboys, Giants, or Bills, all these rumors? And why has it taken so long?
I don't know. Maybe it's because he's falling asleep on airplanes and getting kicked off of airplanes, which was just a crazy story that we saw a couple weeks ago.
That didn't help.
It was. Yeah. Listen, I mean, remember, he tore up his knee last year in the Super Bowl, right? So he's not even 1 year post injury. So I don't think he's very healthy right now, to be honest with you. I think he's probably about 70%, 75% healthy. So I think there's no rush to bring him in. There's no rush for him to play. I also think that he wants a 2-year deal probably, because he doesn't want to sign with a team for 2 or 3 months and then have to do this all over again in the offseason. And probably a lot of teams don't want to give him a 2-year deal right now at his age, coming off of a catastrophic injury like that. So I do think that he will be signed here in the next coming weeks. And I think that whoever signs him is going to be looking forward to getting him out there on for the playoffs. At the very, very least, if Odell Beckham Jr. steps on the field, you have to respect that he's on the football field, and he is at the very least a damn good decoy. So if he's lining up opposite Stephon Diggs and Isaiah McKenzie and Gabriel Davis, that helps all those guys, right? Let's go to Dallas. If he's out there and he's lining up again opposite CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz, that the guys that they have, it's only going to help those guys get the football as well. It's what happened last year with the Rams and allowing guys like Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson to be able to eat a little bit more. And Odell was having an amazing Super Bowl before he got hurt too. He had a touchdown in that game, as well as he was on his way to go over the yards that they had over under for him. He was well on his way to go over close to 100 yards. So hopefully he's at least healthy enough to make an impact. I still think Odell is a very fun player to watch. Sure. I think he can still help a football team. I think it'll eventually come down to the Cowboys or the Bills. And I'm actually going to go with the Von Miller factor. I think he's going to sign with the Bills before this is all said and done, and go with them. I think if it was the Cowboys, it would have been done by now. I think Jerry Jones might have probably been scared off a little bit by the whole plane situation, even though Jerry had his own scandal last week with some pictures in Arkansas that we don't have to discuss. But I think that his buddy Von Miller will be able to bring it home, and I think Odell will be catching passes from Josh Allen in the frigid cold of Buffalo in the coming weeks.
There you go. You saw them getting chummy courtside at a basketball game, and that would make a lot of sense, certainly. Who stays losing, of course, is Antonio Brown, as there was an arrest warrant issued for him in Tampa, and we both know his history and just what a fucking idiot this guy can be. A very talented player, but man, he's almost Kanye-esque the way he is just tanking his life at this point, type of thing. So a lot of fun matchups this week in week 13 and tonight. Bills Patriots should be a good one. I know Aldo likes the Bills taking the Patriots by 10 here. And moving on to other things, Ross, I gotta ask you how you're feeling about your White Sox and the offseason here. Is Jose Abreu is now a Houston Astro. He's with the champs at this point. He had a pretty great legacy with the White Sox, and it's tough over these last 2 years. I know a lot of certainly fans and critics around the league have just said it was underachieving and what could have been with injuries and everything else. But a guy like Jose Abreu was the heart of the team for a while, and, came out and had such a great rookie year. I have very fond memories of watching Jose Abreu, and I wish him well. I wonder if the Astros have overpaid for him at this point. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think they did overpay for him. I'm going to miss the guy. I love Jose Abreu a lot. I think that he He brought us into that new generation of first baseman that I'm accustomed to as a White Sox fan my whole life. I went from Frank Thomas to Paul Konerko to Jose Abreu. And so, hopefully Andrew Vaughn now can fill those shoes. I'm going to miss the guy. I wish him nothing but the best. I think that he was a great ambassador for the White Sox. I think he was a great ambassador for the young Cuban players that are in the league right now. And, all I want to say is I did wish that the White Sox would have kept him. My biggest gripe is if you let him walk for that money, you better be prepared to spend that money in more in other places. And so if the White Sox sit on their hands and don't do shit, then that's what pisses me off, because you let your franchise player, the face of your team for so long, walk away, and then you don't replace him with any blue chip players. That drives me nuts. And that makes me want to say, I get I get a pack of games every single year. That makes me say, yeah, you know what? I don't want to spend all my money on this team anymore, because you don't want to spend your money on this team anymore. So hopefully in the coming weeks, this means that that the White Sox are going to open up their pocketbooks to bring in some more impact players. They need a second baseman. They just signed a Mike Clemenger, who's going to be a back of the end rotation guy. They can probably use another outfielder as well as another relief pitcher as well. Let's hope they can spend some money. They need a left-handed bat too.
Staying healthy is paramount, obviously, with all that said. And now you have to fill the void of Jose Abreu and hope that several guys have to step up on that roster for sure. And looking around the rest of the sporting world, the World Cup in full swing. Have you been following it, Ross, and everything? I know there was a controversial goal, the Japan goal that stood after replay. That was pretty wild. Yeah. And
across the line today. I don't know how that's let in, but listen, if you watch the FIFA documentary on Netflix, you know that anything goes in that sport. Shout out to Christian Pulisic. I hope his nuts are feeling okay today, and he's ready to rock and roll on Saturday morning. Go USA against the Dutch. As Austin Powers would say in part 3, is we don't like the Dutch. So I've been casually watching the. It's the timings are kind of weird. You got to kind of watch in the middle of the day, kind of side eye while you're at work and stuff like that. But it's been fun. I mean, with all the political stuff aside of Qatar hosting and, the slave labor that went into to building those stadiums and all the corruption of FIFA, I think it's been a very good event so far. We got some surprises today. We got Germany knocked out. We got Spain knocked out. I know we get so those are 2 big surprises. Mexico's gone. That's another big surprise.
Yeah, surprise.
And so we get Brazil tomorrow. But you look at teams like USA, why can't they beat the Dutch on Saturday, right? And go on. They're right now 90-1 favorites to win the World Cup. And to me, France is looking like the most dominant team right now. Just because they got Mbappe out there. Mbappe is one of the most elite soccer players we've seen in a long time. Obviously, we've seen Messi and we've seen Cristiano Ronaldo, who just got a massive deal of over $200 million a year from a Saudi Arabia team. But Mbappe is just as fun in this new generation of players, and I think he might lead France to World Cup victory.
Man, how about it? I think it's helpful when the U.S.'s greatest threats are taken out by other teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that'll certainly help your chances. Yeah, I got to get more into it, and certainly, I'm down the street from Cleo's, which is a great Chicago bar, great soccer bar. I just love that atmosphere. I know exactly what offsides is, and I seriously enjoy it when there's some scoring, and we'll see some shootouts too, because ties won't be an option. So getting into it. That's that one time in 4 years where I can say it. Mm-hmm. And as far as the NBA is concerned, Bulls continue to underachieve. They just got the break speed off them by the Suns, and it's more of the same as we just creep along in this season. And again, it's the Bucks and the Bucks and Celtics really making waves, and Phoenix, like I just talked about, beating the brakes off the Bulls and being so good. But the Bulls, I'm not sure what's going to happen as this season drags on. I know that Billy Donovan and the rest of the Bulls were pretty. It didn't seem optimistic. They were just saying it's going very slowly as far as the Lonzo Ball situation is concerned, and now it's really just kind of packing in the trade machine and seeing what you could potentially get for a DeMar DeRozan. And now that you've locked up Levine and hopefully you could get some decent return, he could certainly be a good role player on a playoff team. And maybe Bulls can accumulate draft picks or something that would be a better answer to help this team get back in the winning column and make sure that they are progressing in the right way towards a winning franchise, because they don't look like it right now. They just, like Ross talking about earlier, they're not far off in the playoff seating, but they're just a sort of a one and done, flash in the pan type of situation, and it's not looking good unless you shake up this roster at all.
I got crushed opening night when they started saying that they were going to load manage Zach LaVine for saying that they should probably look to tank towards this year and probably get into the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. And here we are. They're now 12th in the Eastern Conference, a quarter of the way through the season. So what I would do personally, I don't think we're seeing Lonzo Ball at least for the rest of this year, maybe going forward. This guy might be cooked. He can't even walk up the stairs right now, so you can't rely on that situation. So if I were the Bulls, I don't think Zach LaVine's healthy right now. I watch him play basketball. He can't get any lift on his jump shots. He's missing layups at the cup. That means he has no trust in that knee right now. I would shut him down for a few months. I would shut him down, allow him to kind of sit, further rehab that knee that he has surgery on over the summer, get that knee right. And I would take that opportunity to also trade Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan, and then I would get as many draft picks as I could. I would even take on Russell Westbrook's contract if it means that I can get 2 unprotected first-round picks from the Lakers, because those picks are going to be gold in a few years when LeBron James and Anthony Davis are not on that basketball team. They're going to be gold, and that's the kind of forward thinking that you need to start looking at. And I would blow it up. I would take it out, and I would try and shoot for a top 4 pick. And as we know, if the Bulls do land in the top 4, that is protected away from the Orlando Magic, so they can make that pick. And then I would bring whoever young man that they draft back, along with Zach being next year, who hopefully will be healthier coming off a 1 year removed from that knee injury. But those are the difficult decisions that, in my opinion, it's not going to be popular with the fan base, but I think it's going to be for the betterment of this team going forward. Because if you keep this team as they are right now, they are not going to make the playoffs. They're going to tread water. DeMar DeRozan is approaching 34, 35 years old. Vucevic is going to want new money. Don't give it to him. You're in a really tough spot. You got to pick a lane here. You either got to blow it up or you got to do something drastic to get an influx of talent in here. And I just don't know what that trade looks like. It might be Karl Anthony Towns, who might be on the market. It might be some other guys out there, maybe Damian Lillard down the road. I don't even think that's going to happen. So the Bulls are in a really tough spot, unfortunately. And I think that they should blow it up and tank as much as they can.
Yeah, and posed in the comments is the question: do you still trust Arturas Karnisovas? And I'll trust him a lot more if he has some balls and doesn't stand pat at the trade deadline and tries to shake it up, because this roster, it's just not conducive to winning right now. You look around the league and certainly around the East and within the Bulls' own division, and it's not looking good right now. You hit everything on the head. You just got to start making those calls and start theorizing what's going to be best to, help build around Levine, because you've invested a lot of money in him right now, and then get something to bolster that front court. They need, if Vucevic ain't it, they got to get what you can for him. And then DeRozan getting up there on his way out doesn't fit in with the plan going forward. That's for sure. That's and right. As we wrap up the show, Ross, did you watch Neil Brennan's special? I was all in on it, blocks, and he is very unique. And those that don't know Neil Brennan, he wrote for Dave Chappelle, and he's a director, and he wrote a lot for Chappelle Show, that is, and just an incredibly funny guy. He did 3 mics before this Blocks special, and Blocks is very unique the way he structured it. And the guy has just, dealt with a lot of mental health issues, which he is not shy about talking about on the special for Blocks, but he has some just an incredible comedy mind, the way he's put together. And I loved it. I was all in on it. You can watch it on Netflix. Big plug.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it this weekend. I haven't watched it yet. I did watch the Dion Cole special, who was another Chicago comic. That's on Netflix right now. That's an outstanding special. I actually saw that one live. We saw Neil Brennan live too a couple years ago at Thalia Hall.
Yeah, we did.
Yep. So I will watch it this weekend. I did go see Wakanda Forever last week. I thought
how'd it go?
I thought it was good. I thought not as good as the first one, but they landed the plane as best they could. I'm excited for it's like awards movie season coming out, which is my favorite time of the year. I'm going to go take myself to the theaters tomorrow and probably watch The Menu, which has Anya Taylor-Joy in it and Ralph Fiennes.
Got my doppelganger in it too. You think I look
Yes,
like a
absolutely.
cult? You think so?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I've been getting that.
Yeah, we're getting Knives Out in a couple weeks. We're getting Babylon from Damien Chazelle in a couple weeks. We're getting White Noise from Noah Baumbach in a couple weeks. So it's the prestige movie season, which is my favorite time of the year. But I will check out Neil Brennan this weekend. I'm a huge Neil Brennan fan, like you said. Very, very brilliant mind. Co-writer of the Chappelle Show, co-creator of the Chappelle Show. Very big on mental health. Very good on that dry humor that he has. He's awesome.
Super dry.
And he's a great follow on Twitter. And if you tweet at him, because I know there's some personal experience, he will respond to you and he will retweet you and shout you out. Great guy.
What a guy. Well, to the opposite, my sister told me one of her friends went on a couple dates with him and called him an asshole. But he could have been dealing with whatever at that time. He could also seem like a prickly human being.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm all in for sort of this Oscar season as we're starting to see some heavy hitters in The Whale. Everybody's raving about.
Mhm.
But we got to end the show on this low note. But we'll bring you up from this robbery and take you on our own tour of Chicago because this I had to look this shit up. It's called Fever. This is where I found it. The Chicago Foodie Lovers Tour that features. Let me take you through these bullet points here: an Uber ride, bottled water, probably Dasani, a Portillo's hot dog, a small Garrett's popcorn, a 6-inch Al's Italian beef sandwich, a slice of deep dish pizza, a do-right donut, and free entry to the Wrigley Building, Tribune Tower, and Buckingham Fountain, which is outside. There ain't even a fucking door to get in that you could be blocked from. There's multiple. You could come from LSD. You could come from the east side of it. Or the west side of it. I just don't understand it. And you could get all of this, folks, for a very fair price of $532.50. This has to be some sort of a joke.
All of that is a value of like $75.
Yeah.
But they're charging you $530 for that excursion. They are trying to really take advantage of the person that is coming in from Iowa or Ohio or Wisconsin, Sheboygan. Shout out Sheboygan.
Poor bastards.
Or anybody else that is coming in from out of town, because you look at everything on that list, those foods, the Uber ride is probably the most expensive thing on the list.
Right. Yeah.
And that's probably like $15 right there. That's just an absolute travesty. So, as you know, I responded to that today. I created my own list. It will probably cost you less than $100. It will take you all over the beautiful neighborhoods of this great city of Chicago. I started off with Harold's Chicken on 87th Street, which is on the south side, right out to Dan Ryan. Shout out to those guys. Still amazing. I took you to the fried shrimp from Goose Island Shrimp, which is located on Goose Island, right off the Division and Halsted. Yep, absolutely, in that area. Hot Dogs Atomic Sausage Pizza. Hot Dogs is no longer with us, but his sausages live on in a great pizza from Peace, which is in the beautiful Wicker Park area, which also has a brewery there. So sit in there and have a beer, homemade beer. During the summertime, if you're doing this, Italian Ice from Mario's Italian Ice Stand, which is on Taylor Street, not too far from me, between Halsted and it's like Racine, somewhere over there. But it's an awesome stand. Shout out to them. Burger from Fatso's Last Stand, which is out in like Ukrainian Village area. One of the best burgers in the city. You can have pierogies from Star Poloska, which is all the way up north near Belmont and Cicero. I had some pierogies last Saturday at the Christmas Kindle Mart at the Wrigley Field at Gallagher Way. Outstanding. And then I finished it up. You and I know this very, very well, but the tacos from Carnitas Europon in the Pilsen neighborhood. They give you a pound of carnitas for like $25. It can feed like 5 or 6 people. They sell it fresh. They sell it until they sell out. And it is outstanding.
Yeah,
and that'll take you through the nice, beautiful, all the neighborhoods of Chicago. You can get all that for probably $100 total. And don't take an Uber. Take our beautiful public transportation. Take the red line. Take the pink
also
line.
fun
Yes.
with a guy smoking a blunt in the train car.
Yeah.
As
Just gonna
is
save some oils. Save some oils. Buy the oils. They smell good.
There you go. I'm with you there. I could just take you around Chicago Avenue right here. I'm right by Fatso's. I'm right by a good pizza spot, Bartoli's. You could go to get some good chicken. You get some good tacos, Donut Natties over here. I could definitely take you on a better tour than whatever the Fever is selling you at this point. It was just very upsetting to see these people taking advantage of these port tourists who don't know any better. I would assume. Well, we're out of time, Ross. Thanks to everybody for listening in here on the Barroom Network. Remember to follow the Barroom Network at Barroom Network on Twitter, and follow us at 311 Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Read, and check out all our previous shows on Spotify, iTunes, and on YouTube, of course. We got Science Fiction coming up at 9 p.m. We got a lot of Bears coverage coming up later this weekend. And enjoy this holiday season. You said you went to the Chris Kindle Mart. We got to start doing such things as we'll see snow before you know it.
It's time. I'll probably be at the Navy Pier on Saturday to just see the indoor light show, doing all the
tourist stuff,
all the touristy things, all the ones that the little ones like. But I like it too, as long as I can get a nice cold beer there.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. For now, everybody be good to each other out there. We say deuces. So long, everybody.